Okay, good morning. Oh, it's in the night mode. Doesn't matter. All right, so I just came back from downstairs. I'm going to sit like this and enjoy some reading time before I start working on other things. Editing? Okay. I'm loving this book. On page 102. I'll start from here again. It is the same pain I have had for many years. It comes from keeping everything inside, waiting until it is too late. I think my mother gave me this fault. The same kind of pain. She left me before she could tell me why she was leaving. I think she wanted to explain, but at the last moment, she could not. And so, even to this day, I still feel I'm waiting for her to come back and tell me why it was this way. I never told you about my mother, that she left me. Oh, that's because I never wanted to believe in myself. I never wanted to believe it myself. So maybe that's why I did not tell you about her. Okay, this feels like the author, the protagonist, was speaking directly to you, to the reader. This is interesting writing, but I want to skip this part. I've read it a few times already. After looking down the staircase, we returned to our room. It was early in the morning and other family members were still sleeping. I do not remember why we were already awake, cannot even guess. To judge from the color of the sky, it would be perhaps another hour before the servant girl would come with our morning meal. My mother was playing a game with little red and black tablets spread out on a board. She said this was the foreigner games called chike, prison and handcuffs. It is only now that I think of this game, chike, that I realize she must have been talking about checkers. She was sliding the tablets across the board, explaining that the different colors were people fighting under different warlords, trying to capture each other. But she started to explain more. My young mind became confused. Of course, I did not know how to say I was confused. So instead, I complained that I was hungry. I like that. I would I could do this with my mother, complain and demand things. She was not strict with me, not the way some mothers can be. She was perhaps even more lenient than I was with you. Yes, can you imagine? If I wanted something, I could always expect to receive it, never thinking I would have to give something back in return. So you see, although I knew my mother only a short time, I learned this from her, a pure kind of trust. That day, when I said I was hungry, I already knew my mother had a box of English biscuits hidden on top of her tall dresser. She brought the tin box down. These biscuits were her favorites. My favorites too. Not too sweet, not too soft. My mother had many favorites from different countries. She liked English biscuits, of course, and also their soft furniture, Italian automobiles and French gloves and shoes, white Russian soup and sad love songs, American ragtime music and Hamilton watches. Fruit can be from any kind of country, and everything else has to be Chinese, or it made no sense. My father owned several clothes factories, and once a foreign customer gave my mother a bottle of French perfume. She had smiled and told the man she was honored to receive such a fine gift from a big, important customer. If you knew my mother, you would have known she did not like this man, the way she called him a big, important customer. Later, she let me smell the insides of the bottle. She said it smelled like urine, and that's what I smelled too. Why do foreigners always pay big money to put such a stink on themselves? My mother said, why not just wash more often? It makes no sense. She emptied out the perfume into her chamber pot and gave me the round crystal bottle. It was a deep blue color, and when I held it up to the window and shook it, it threw dancing colors all around the room. That morning, I was eating my English biscuit, playing with my French bottle. I could hear the sounds of the morning. My mother was the one who taught me how to listen. She was always lifting her ears up to catch a sound, showing me how to judge its importance. If the sound was important, her ears stayed up. Not important, she went back to what she was doing. I copied what she did. Together, we heard servants walking up and down the hallway, removing chamber pots, lifting them with a small grunt. We heard someone dragging a box down the stairs and someone else whispering loudly, "What's the matter? Wind in your brains?" Outside, a big bucket of water was thrown out of a high window so that it splashed all at once onto the back courtyard. Pia! Sounding just like hot frying oil. And after a very long time, we finally heard the little ting-ting-ting of chopsticks hitting against the sides of porcelain bowls, an announcement that servants were entering rooms to bring in the morning meal. They were all the usual sounds, what we heard every morning. But that morning, my mother seemed to be paying attention to all of it. Her ears stayed up, mine too, and it is still a question in my mind if she heard what she was listening for, if she was disappointed or relieved. Before I finished my breakfast, my mother left the room quickly. She was gone for such a long time, although maybe it was only a few minutes. You know how children are, 1 hour or 1 minute, it doesn't matter, they become impatient. You were the same way. When I could wait no longer, I opened the door and peeked outside. Then toward the end of the hall, I saw my mother and father standing there, talking in harsh voices. This does not concern you," my father said firmly. "Do not mention it again." "My mouth is already open," my mother said quickly. "The words have already fallen out." This was not the first time I'd seen them argue. My mother was not like my father's other wives, the ones who used the same kind of fake manner, acting more pleasant than someone else, as if they were in a contest to win something big. My mother's manners were genuine. She could be gentle, of course, but she also could not stop herself from being honest and open. Everyone said this was a fault of hers. If she was mad, she let everything come out, and then trouble would follow. So that morning when I heard my mother and father talking that way, I was scared. They were not shouting, but both were angry, I could tell. My father's voice made me want to close the door and hide. While my mother's voice, it is so hard to describe a sound according to how a little girl felt it. I can only say it sounded ragged, like good clothes already torn, never able to be mended. My father turned to walk away, and then I heard my mother say, "Double second," as if the words were a curse. My father did not turn around. "You can never change this," was all he said. "You think I cannot change this?" said my mother as my father walked away. Back then I did not know what these words meant. Double second. I only knew those words were very bad. The worst name someone could call my mother, a name that always made her spend many hours in front of a mirror, accusing the double second that stared back at her. Finally, my mother turned around. She was wearing a strange smile, one I had never seen before. At that moment, she saw me. "Still hungry?" I complained right away in a small voice. Coming," she said softly, and then her smile changed back to the kind one that I recognized, although I was still thinking, why is she smiling when she's so angry? Back in our room, she told me to get dressed. "Good clothes," she said. "We're going outside." "Who else is going?" "Just we two," she said. This was very unusual, but I did not question her. I was glad for this rare opportunity, and then she took a long time to prepare herself. I always liked to watch my mother getting dressed. She put on a western dress, looked at herself in the mirror, and then took that off. She put on a Chinese dress, took that off, put on another Chinese dress, frowned. Finally, after many more dresses, she put the first dress back on, and that's what she wore. A jade green dress with short sleeves and a long stretched skirt of smooth pleats running down to her ankles. I waited to pick me up so we could finally leave, but instead she patted my head. "Sinker," she said, "you're already so big." She always called me Sinker, a nickname Two words that mean heart liver, the part of the body that looks like a tiny heart. In English, he called it gizzard. Not very good sounding, but in Chinese, sinker sounds beautiful. And it is what mothers call their babies if they love them very, very much. I used to call you that. You didn't know? Sinker, my mother said. Today I will teach you important secrets, but first you must learn to walk by yourself. And before I could cry or complain, she was walking ahead of me saying, let's go, let's go, as if all kinds of fun lay ahead. I followed, and then we were out the front gate and into one of the new style pedicabs that darted in and around the city faster than the old rickshaws. It was the beginning of summer, so it was still cool in the morning, although by afternoon it would be steaming hot. As we drove farther away from our house, I started to hear different kinds of sounds. The shouts of vendors, trolley cars grinding by, motor cars honking, and so much hammering. Old buildings were being pulled down everywhere, new ones being pushed up. Hearing all those sounds, I was so happy. My mother seemed happy too. She became a different person, laughing, teasing, pointing, and shouting in a glad voice, just like a common person. Sinker, look! And it was a shop window display, filled with calfskin gloves for ladies. We stepped out of the pedicab to look in the window. So many thin hands reaching into the air for customers. My mother said I made my hands move like a snake, and we both laughed. We got back in the pedicab. Look, I cried a little while later. I pointed to a man spitting a long stream of bean curd paste into a pot of boiling water. I was proud I had found something interesting to show my mother. He looks like a fish, I said, a fish in a fountain. I stood up in a pedicab. The spit had curled into doughy threads. He is using his mouth just like a cooking tool, my mother explained. We passed so many interesting things that day. It was as if my mother wanted me to open my eyes and ears and remember everything. Although maybe it is just my imagination now that makes me think this, perhaps she had no such intention. Maybe we saw none of these things as I have described. Maybe we did not go to all the places that I now remember. For how could we done all this in one day? But that is what I remember, and even more. That day we also went to all the places where the best things in the world could be found. To Zhejiang Road, where she said they made the best French-style leather shoes. She did not buy any. To Chenghua Miao, where she said they sold a beauty tonic of crushed pearls. She let me put some on my cheeks, but she did not buy this either. To Bubbling Well Road, where she bought me the best American ice cream sundae. She did not eat any, told me it was too messy, too sweet. To Fucho Road, where she said you could buy any kind of book, any kind of newspapers, Chinese and foreign too, and there she did buy something, a newspaper. Although I do not know what it was exactly, since I could not read. And then we went to Little East Gate, where all the best seafood vendors put up their stands. She said she was looking for a delicacy she had not tasted for many years. It was a rare little fish called Wawa Yu, because it cried just like a baby, Wawa, and it could wave its arms and legs. And when we found that fish, I heard it cry out loud. I saw it move just as my mother promised it would. Long ago I loved to eat this fish, she said. So tender, so delicious. Even the scales are so soft and sweet as baby leaves. But now I think it is sad to eat such a creature. I have no appetite for it anymore. I was paying attention to all these places and things my mother found, and I remember thinking, this is important. Listen carefully. So many desires to remember, so many places to find them. I thought my mother was teaching me a secret, that my happiness depended on finding an immediate answer to every wish. That afternoon, we also went to the theater. It was already very hot outside. The full sun was out, and I felt sticky. So I was glad to think we could go into the dark theater. Of course, I was mistaken in thinking the theater could be cool. The last time I had been there must have been during the winter or spring. But that day, it was steaming hot outside like an oven and dark. The moving picture was already playing when we arrived, a story about a little blonde-haired girl. Someone was playing a piano, loud crashing sounds. I can't see, I cried to my mother, afraid to take even one step forward. Wait a little, my mother said, and when my eyes took in all this darkness, I could see rows of people, everyone waving a paper fan. My mother counted off the rows. 6, 7, 8. I did not wonder why she was doing this, looking for the number 8 row from the back. I was interested only in her counting, because that was what I was learning to do. And then we were standing at that number 8 row, pushing our way toward the middle, until my mother came to an empty seat. She whispered to someone sitting on the other side. At the time, I thought she was saying, "Excuse us." It was not until later that I came to think she was saying something else. I'd seen many moving pictures before with my mother, all silent. Charlie Chaplin, The Fatty Man, policemen and fire engines, the cowboys running their race horses in a circle. That afternoon, the picture show was about an orphan girl who had to sell matches in the snow. She was shivering. A woman in front of me was crying, blowing her nose. But I was thinking that little girl was lucky to be so cool on a hot day. That's what I was thinking before I fell asleep in the dark theater. When I awoke, the lights had come on and my mother was leaning toward the man sitting next to her, whispering to her in a solemn voice. I was alarmed. This seemed a dangerous thing she was doing, talking to a stranger. So I winked a little and pulled by my mother toward me. The man leaned over and smiled at me. He was not too old. He looked refined. His skin was smooth and light-colored, not like the face of someone who worked outdoors all day long. Yet he was wearing a common villager jacket, plain blue, although very clean. My mother thanked him, and then we stood up and left. On our ride home, I fell asleep again. All my excitement used up. I woke up only once, bumped out of sleep by the pedicab driver cursing a slow cart on the road. My face was leaning against my mother's hair. I found myself looking at the color of her hair, how different it looked from mine, from that of other women in our family, from anyone else I had ever seen. Not a brown-black or black-brown, not any kind of black with a name. My mother's hair was a color you could feel more than see, very, very black as shiny as water at the very bottom of a deep well. And winding through her bun was 2 white hairs, like little ripples when tiny stones are thrown in the water. And still, these words are not enough to describe it. I remember only a few more things. What happened that evening? I was already very tired from that day. We ate a simple meal in our room. Afterward, my mother showed me how to do an embroidery stitch. Once she said she invented herself. I copied her very badly, but she did not criticize me, not once. She praised what I had done. And then, as she helped me... Okay, I'll stop here. I can never stop reading, but I need to stop. I'm going to have breakfast and start working on editing. Thanks for reading with me. It's 10:44 already in the morning. 停止录像。